Hey everyone, welcome back to the Becoming Podcast. This is episode 6.
Wow.
And we're at 6
episodes.
That's nuts.
We're pros now.
We're getting there.
Yeah. We got this.
So, we're excited. I am joined by two of my favorite people. We have Melissa.
Chris makes the list.
He makes the list as one of my favorite people. It's true.
At least since noon.
Yeah. So we have Melissa here and Kris, and this is a special week for Melissa. I have to just name this because she is getting ordained this Friday in the Church of the Nazarene. And so we are super excited for that. And want to celebrate that together with you as we affirm God's call on people in the church.
That's right.
And that's what it's about.
That's right.
And thankful for her leadership and witness to what we're doing here. And so, it's a good time. And so we're back at it here in episode 6, and we're continuing our conversation about the good news for Chicken Little, our Revelation series. And we are just wrapping up week 6, heading into week 7 of 8. So we're almost on the home stretch here, which is kind of crazy. I'd love to hear from you guys. What's going through your minds now, just in general, as we're about to wrap up this series, Kris?
Well, a lot is going through my mind, Josh. I would say that on one side, I think this series has been something really refreshing for me personally, because in my years of ministry, I have never preached from Revelation. I mean, I would say I've maybe preached from 2 verses in my ministry life from Revelation. And so to be able to dive in like this, and I know it's only an 8-week series, and there's so much that because of time, we're sort of forced to move through quickly or kind of skip over. I am still getting so much from this. It's been such a rich time in the Word. We've all had opportunity to preach it, to share it, to live in it for a while. And I think my observation has been, not only has some light bulbs gone off for me about this book, but I think I'm seeing it in the congregation too, or whoever listens in to what we're doing. It has been an exciting series because it's always been pointing to Jesus. So that's been cool. That's been my take so far. Yeah.
That's good. What about you, Melissa?
Well, I mean, Kris just hit on that point of just pointing to Jesus. Everything that we've talked about has been pointing to Christ. And if we get off track of that, then we're missing the point. And I think that's what at times makes this book somewhat difficult, because we want to look at other things. And it's so tempting for whatever reason to want to look at details and try to make sense of these details in a way that in fact actually doesn't point us to the resurrected Jesus, the slaughtered lamb, the King of Kings. And so I don't know, it has been refreshing for me, and for Josh and I, like, being young in ministry, like, we can now say, like, we've been through a series on Revelation.
Good. I don't have to deal with it for a while.
Yeah, it's true. It. I would just echo that word, refreshing. And I think it's challenged all of us in the preaching moment too, to really think about how do we present this in such a way as we preach, because it's a little bit different from, say, teaching a class on Revelation, or even having a one-on-one dialogue with someone. There is a particular kind of form and flow that we've really been able to kind of, not that we have it figured out by any means, but we've been kind of leaning into, like, what does that look like
it's
in
a
the preaching
groove.
moment?
It seems like it's been a groove with this series in preaching it, because I feel like we have remained pretty tethered to who the revelation is about. And we just, I mean, every week it's that comes through. Not because we're forcing it, but that's what the text is doing.
Yeah.
So that's been good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've appreciated the interconnectedness that has gone on as we've really leaned on one another to kind of weave this together in such a way to really get at that point of like this is what the revelation is about.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been fun, and we're on the home stretch here. And so Melissa, we just finished up week 6, the good news about dragons. Let's look back. What sticks out to you as we reflect on this last week's sermon?
Yeah, some of like the most, or what am I trying to say? Really, the thing that stuck out the most was the simple but powerful message that chapter 12 relates or gives us is that Christ has conquered, and the dragon or evil has no strength or power over Christ. And it's one of those things where it's like, well, yeah, duh, like I know that, but we act like evil still has the victory.
Yeah.
And we view the world that way. We get kind of so caught up in what's going on in the world, and while that's important, we forget the victory. And our world focuses so much on the negative.
Yeah.
And we don't get to see how God is moving. Now, granted, evil still has its way. There's still suffering. There's still violence and pain and war and all these things. But this whole message points to that God protects his covenant people.
Yep.
We see that with the woman as she flees into the wilderness to go to the place that the Lord has prepared for her. And God is continually seeking after his creation to say, I care, and I'm not abandoning you, and I've already won. And so it's just that simple but powerful message that Christ is Savior.
Yep. You said something, and it was an echo of what you'd said a couple weeks ago, that we should not expect to be treated any different than the slaughtered lamb.
Yeah.
That made me pause. It really did. One of the errors I think we have in the church about Revelation is that we stand almost aloof to the evil that's going on, and we point at it, right? Yeah. And that's the bad stuff, and we're on the good side. Now, I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that, yes, we are the redeemed people of God, and there's a great hope for us. But I think because of the world we're living in right now, we're in it.
Yeah. Dealing
with the evil, surrounded by it. Well, then, how do we minister in it?
Yeah.
How do we show grace in it? That phrase got my attention. Yeah.
How do we persevere in it?
Exactly.
Yeah, because especially for your sermon, Melissa, the notion of that evil has been defeated not only by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony.
Yeah.
And so having this sort of, one way you could describe it is sort of this escapist thought of like, well, it doesn't really matter, but what we do as God's people right now matters.
Yeah.
It matters
Absolutely.
In the ways in which we witness.
Yeah.
And the ways in which we witness reflect the type of God who we serve. And
Very
so
true.
We have to be really intentional
Yeah.
about what by the kind of witness that we're showing, what kind of God are we showing to the world? And that becomes really, really challenging as we look at Revelation and we look at us as a people trying to be this kind of people that are on this path of becoming. And what does it mean to be a witness in that light as we are a people who are becoming mature, interdependent followers who make disciples. And it invites us to remember of this idea of becoming is not about arriving. Something a mentor reminded me this week of not being in a place of like, I've made it, but really being invited to say, this is a journey of becoming, and this process doesn't end until the Lord returns. And so we're continually being reformed and shaped and renewed as we walk in this journey.
It made me think of the James passage of just that we all have heard it, is when trials come our way, consider it an opportunity for great joy.
Yes.
We're not immune to the suffering and the hurt and the pain, but God has called us to be a witness to what he is doing in the midst of it.
Yeah. And that will largely be seen in the ways in which we allow God to transform that pain and make something new out of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's so good. Well, we are heading into week 7. Kris, what do we got? I believe it's the good news about bad guys.
Yep, good news about bad guys. It's interesting. So this week, so I'm going to be, well, at first I thought I was going to be working from chapter 13 through 18. But here's what I discovered. Chapter 13 is basically another retelling of the same story you told last week.
Yeah.
It's just different characters. So it's just interesting to me, and I know it's random, but it is interesting. It's week 7 where we're dealing with 42 months and also 3.5 years and 666. We got all those numbers this week. All right. And so this particular chapter, I would say chapter 13 is the one where most people really love to decode. Because they want to know who the Antichrist is. They want to know who the false prophet is. They want to know what 666 means. And we all, again, I was reading in a couple different commentaries this week that said, we have such a propensity humanly to say, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? John, he doesn't talk about a who. He talks about a what.
Yeah.
And so it's just a different way of looking at it. But there's 2 powerful passages. In chapter 13, a great story is told of this warring of these beasts that come. We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the beast of the sea and the beast of the land. We're going to talk about what this mark is all about. But there's 2 powerful passages. One is in Revelation 13, at the tail end of verse 10, that says, and it just stands out on its own. This means that God's holy people must endure persecution patiently and remain faithful. And then in chapter 14, which is the antithesis to 13, where there's this great overwhelming victory in heaven, which again, the evil is on a short leash. The same verse, the same wording is almost reiterated in chapter 14, verse 12, where it says, this means that God's holy people must endure persecution patiently, obeying his commands and maintaining their faith in Jesus. So we have this constant story that continues to be told. We wait, we worship, we endure. This is probably going to push some buttons this week. That's all we've been doing this entire series is pushing buttons, stepping on toes. But there's this, I think, mistaken notion, and I've often heard it said, that Jesus is not going to beat up his bride before he comes. That somehow what that communicates is the church isn't going to go through any of this persecution. What are you talking about? The church has been under persecution since Jesus was here. And John paints this incredibly vivid picture of that persecution, which we are still dealing with today and will deal with until he returns. So this week really focuses on some of the key things that people love to. I'm going to use the warning decoding opportunity sign again, because as soon as we talk about 666, wow, the antenna come up. And we want to figure that out and calculate that all out. So we're going to have some fun with that this weekend. But the same story comes in again, just told in a different way. That evil is limited and Christ reigns victorious. So I love how every chapter does that.
Yeah. It seems like we're really starting to catch these themes over and over again, and ones that really shape and form a a type of living in the here and now.
Yeah.
I think we're starting to learn. Revelation invites us to consider, what does it mean to be a faithful people now, right now, in this time and space?
Yeah.
And what does that look like? And so, yeah, this has been so thought-provoking and challenging as we think more about this. So here we go, Revelation 13 through 18, and a little bit here and there, the number 666. That's happening this week. So please join us this weekend as we just continue this journey together.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to it. So as always, thanks for joining us. And if you haven't already yet, subscribe to the podcast. You can either like and subscribe here on YouTube if you're watching us, or if you are listening to us via Apple Podcast or Google Podcast or Spotify, you can like and subscribe there as well. That helps continue to spread the word about this conversation that we're going to continue to have. And even beyond the Chicken Little series, we look forward to more conversations, different kinds of dialogue. And we're just getting our feet wet here. So it's been a good run, and we're looking forward to seeing you this weekend as we continue to dive into Revelation together. So thanks again, and we'll see you guys soon.
Awesome. Take care.